The night was calm, almost too calm. The small village of Orin slept under the silver light of the moon. The houses were made of wood and stone, simple but warm. Smoke slowly rose from the last fires, and the sound of crickets filled the air. But something strange was hiding in that silence. In one of the huts, a boy named Aaron was awake. He was only 13 years old, full of curiosity and dreams. He often sneaked outside at night to look at the stars. His sister, Lyra, always warned him not to wander, but Aaron never listened. The world outside the village was dark, mysterious, and he loved it. That night, Aaron stepped outside again. He looked up at the sky, where thousands of stars shone like diamonds. He whispered to himself, "So many worlds, maybe one day I will see them." He didn't know his wish was about to come true in the most terrifying way. Far away, in the dark mountains, something moved. At first, it looked like a shadow sliding over the peaks. Then the ground shook lightly, and a deep, rumbling sound rolled across the valley. The animals in the forest grew restless. Birds flew into the night sky, as if running from something unseen. Aaron felt a sudden chill. He turned to go back inside, but before he could move, a powerful wind rushed over him. It was not the soft wind of the night. It was sharp, heavy, and carried a strange heat. Then he saw it. High above, wings stretched wider than any house. A massive figure blocked the moonlight. Its body glowed faintly, like burning metal. Its eyes, two green flames, looked down directly at him. A dragon. Aaron froze. His breath caught in his throat. He wanted to scream, but his voice failed him. The creature swooped down, faster than an arrow. Its claws struck the ground with a thundering crash, shaking the earth beneath his feet. Before Aaron could run, the dragon's huge claw closed around him. He screamed then, loud and desperate, his voice cutting through the silent night. Inside the hut, Lyra woke with a start. She heard her brothers cry and rushed outside. What she saw made her heart stop. The dragon's enormous wings lifted again, beating like storms. Aaron struggled, kicking and shouting, but the beast carried him high into the sky. "No! Aaron!" Lyra shouted, running after the shadow. Her voice broke with fear, but the dragon was already rising into the clouds. Villagers poured out of their houses, some holding torches, others weapons. They looked up and gasped as the glowing shadow disappeared beyond the mountains. "A dragon!" an old man whispered, trembling. "It has returned." The people gathered, confused and afraid. Some claimed dragons were only myths, bedtime stories told to scare children. Others swore they had seen one long ago, during the burning years, when the sky was filled with fire. But none of them had seen a beast like this, alive, powerful, and real. Lyra fell to her knees, her eyes filled with tears. It took my brother," she cried. The village leader, a strong man named Kale, placed his hand on her shoulder. "We will find him," he said firmly. "But we must be careful. That was no ordinary creature. If the legends are true, we face something far greater than we can imagine." That night, no one slept. Torches burned across the village. Men whispered in fear, women prayed, and children cried in their mothers' arms. The silence of peace had been broken forever. But in the mountains, beyond the reach of the village, the boy Aaron was still alive. The dragon flew over cliffs and rivers, faster than the wind. Its wings stretched like living storms. Aaron struggled in its claws, shouting, begging, but the beast did not let him go. He felt the heat of its body, as if fire itself lived inside its skin. Then he noticed something strange. The dragon was not like the ones from old stories. Its body shimmered with a metallic glow, almost like armor. Parts of it looked alive, but other parts seemed mechanical, as if forged by human hands. And its eyes, they were not only flames. They were filled with thought, with intelligence. The dragon was not a mindless beast. It was something else, something greater. Aaron's fear turned into confusion. "Why me? Why did it take me?" As the dragon carried him deeper into the mountains, Aaron saw lights glowing from within the rocks. They were not natural, lines of green energy pulsed like veins under the earth. He realized the dragon was flying toward a hidden place, a place humans were never meant to see. The last thing Aaron remembered before darkness took him was the echo of the dragon's voice, not a roar, but a whisper, deep inside his mind. "You are chosen." And then silence. Back in the village, Lyra stood on the edge of the forest, staring at the mountains. Her fists clenched with determination. She did not care if it was a dragon, a monster, or something else. She would not let her brother vanish into the night. Whatever mystery waited in the mountains, she was ready to face it. The sun rose slowly over the village of Orin, but its light brought no comfort. The people were silent, their faces pale with fear. Smoke from the morning fires curled into the sky, but no one spoke of daily work. All eyes were on the dark mountains where the dragon had vanished. Lyra had not slept. She stood outside her hut, her eyes red and swollen from crying. In her heart, there was only one thought: I must bring Anne back. The village leader, Kale, called the people to gather. His voice was heavy but strong. Last night, we all saw it. The beast took a child. This is no dream, no story. The dragon is real. A murmur rose among the villagers. Some shook their heads, refusing to believe. Others whispered of old legends, of the burning years when fire rained from the skies. An old woman spoke, her voice trembling. Dragons come only when something dark is near. If it has taken the boy, then doom follows. Kale raised his hand to silence her. Fear will not save the child. We must act. Who among you has the courage to climb the mountains and face what waits there? The crowd fell silent. No one moved. The dragon's roar still echoed in their memories. To walk into its lair was like stepping into death itself. Then Lyra stepped forward. Her voice was firm, though her hand shook. I will go. Aaron is my brother. I will not sit here and do nothing. A few others slowly came forward, hunters, young men, and one elder who claimed he knew the paths through the mountain. In the end, only 6 stood beside her. Kale looked at them with respect. You are brave. But bravery is not enough. Remember, this is no ordinary beast. Watch the signs. Trust your instincts. And if the mountain rejects you, come back alive. With that, the small group prepared for the journey. They carried torches, ropes, and simple weapons, bows, spears, and knives. None of it seemed strong enough to face a dragon, but it was all they had. Before leaving, Lyra tied a piece of red cloth around her arm. It belonged to Aaron. She swore she would not return without him. The forest at the foot of the mountains was thick and silent. As they entered, even the birds grew quiet. Strange claw marks scored the trees, deep and long, as if something enormous had passed that way. The hunters examined the ground and found blackened soil, as though fire had licked across it. In some places, small scales glittered like emerald glass. When Lyra touched one, it felt warm, almost alive. This is no ordinary creature, the elder whispered. These scales hold energy, like fire trapped inside stone. As they moved deeper, the air grew heavier. The forest smelled of smoke, though no fire burned. Every step felt like crossing into forbidden land. Hours passed. At last, they reached a narrow path climbing the mountainside. Rocks crumbled beneath their feet. Strange symbols, carved long ago, marked the stone walls. They were not written by any villager's hand. The shapes glowed faintly, pulsing with green light. What is this? One of the men asked, fear in his voice. The elder shook his head. I do not know. These marks are older than the village itself. Maybe older than man. Suddenly, a roar echoed through the mountains. It was deep, powerful, and filled with something more than rage. It carried meaning, as though it were speaking in a language too ancient to understand. The group froze. The hunters gripped their bows tighter. Lyra's heart pounded, but she forced herself to move forward. We came for Aaron, she said. We cannot turn back now. They pressed on. The path grew darker as they entered a canyon between 2 cliffs. Strange green moss glowed faintly on the rocks, giving the place an otherworldly shine. Then they saw it. A giant footprint, burned into the stone itself. The claws had dug so deep that even the hardest rock was cracked and broken. One hunter whispered, it could crush us with one step. But Lyra knelt beside the footprint. In the center, she saw something small, a scrap of cloth. Red. Her brother's. She clutched it to her chest, her eyes filling with tears. He was here, she whispered. He is alive. The group continued higher. The air grew colder, but the ground grew hotter. Smoke drifted from cracks in the stone, and glowing veins of green light ran like rivers beneath their feet. The mountain felt alive, as if something inside it breathed. At last, they reached the mouth of a cave. It was vast, tall enough for a castle to fit inside. From within came a faint light, pulsing like the beat of a heart. The hunters hesitated. None wished to step inside. Lyra looked into the darkness. Her voice was steady, though fear trembled within her. "Anne is in there. I can feel it." The elder nodded slowly. "Yes. And something else waits with him." They lit their torches and entered. The walls were not like normal rock. They were smooth, polished, and carved with more glowing symbols. Some parts looked natural, but others looked like metal, as if the mountain was half alive, half machine. Deeper inside, they found broken fragments of old machines, covered in dust. Strange crystals grew out of the ground, humming with faint energy. And then, a sound made them all stop. Not the roar of the dragon. A voice. It was soft, almost a whisper, but it echoed through the cavern. It was not human, not animal. It was something between. "You should not be here." The group froze, staring into the dark. Their torches shook in their hands. And from the shadows, 2 green eyes slowly opened. The cavern was silent except for the dripping of water and the faint hum of unseen energy. The 6 villagers stood frozen, their torches flickering against smooth black walls. Then those 2 green eyes opened wider, glowing like fire trapped in glass. They did not blink. They did not move. They only watched. One of the hunters raised his bow, his hands shaking. "It's here," he whispered. But Lyra stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Wait. Don't shoot." The air grew hotter. A deep breath rumbled from the shadows, strong enough to push against their chests. Slowly, the massive shape began to rise. First the claws, long and sharp, each bigger than a sword. Then the wings, folded but heavy, scraping the walls with sparks. Finally, the head, crowned with horns like dark steel, lifted into the torchlight. The dragon filled the cavern like a living storm. Its scales glowed faintly green, as though fire lived under its skin. Its gaze fixed on Lyra. She clutched the red cloth from her brother and forced herself not to step back. "Where is Anne?" she shouted, her voice breaking. "What have you done with my brother?" The dragon did not roar. Instead, it tilted its head slightly, as if studying her. Its mouth opened, but no words came. Instead, the villagers heard the same whispering voice, not with their ears, but inside their minds. "The boy is safe." Gasps spread through the group. One hunter dropped his torch in shock. The flame hissed as it hit the damp stone. "You can speak," the elder whispered. His wrinkled face turned pale. The dragon's voice rumbled again, filling their thoughts. "Not speak. Share. Mind to mind. Words are too small for truth." The hunters stepped back, muttering in fear. But Lyra stood tall. "If he is safe, then show him to me. I want to see my brother." The dragon's eyes burned brighter. For a moment, silence returned. Then the beast lowered its head and turned deeper into the cave. Its massive body slid against the ground, wings brushing the walls. "Follow, if you dare." They followed carefully, though their legs shook with every step. The tunnel widened into a vast chamber, glowing with green light. The walls were covered with strange symbols and patterns, pulsing as if alive. Machines, broken and rusted, lay scattered on the ground. Some looked like giant arms of metal, others like glass tubes shattered long ago. Crystals jutted from the stone, humming with strange energy. "This is not natural," the elder whispered, his voice weak with awe. "This is not the work of man. Or at least, not of the man we know." The dragon stopped at the center of the chamber. There, in a circle of light, stood a tall glass-like pod. Inside, curled but breathing, was the boy. "Anne!" Lyra cried, rushing forward. Her brother's eyes were closed, his face calm, as if he were sleeping. The pod glowed softly around him, lines of green energy running through its sides. Lyra pressed her hands against the surface. "Anne, wake up. Please." But the boy did not stir. The surface of the pod was warm and hard, like stone and fire at once. "What have you done to him?" Lyra screamed, turning on the dragon. "Why did you take him?" The dragon's voice filled their minds again. "He is chosen. His blood holds the key. The ancient call recognized him. Without him, the world will fall." The villagers stared in confusion. One hunter shook his head angrily. "This is madness. It speaks lies. It is a monster, nothing more." He raised his spear. The dragon's eyes flared, and the ground shook. "You know nothing of monsters." A roar followed, shaking the chamber like thunder. Rocks fell from the ceiling, and the hunters stumbled back in fear. Lyra stood between them and the dragon, her voice desperate. Stop. Fighting will not bring Ern back. Tell me what you mean. What is this place? The dragon lowered its head. For a moment, the fire in its eyes softened. Long ago, humans were not alone. They built wonders, weapons, guardians. I was one of them. A protector, forged of flesh and fire, bound to the mountains. But the makers fell. Their cities burned. Their voices died. Only I remain. The elder's eyes widened. You are not just a beast. You are a creation. The dragon's voice was heavy with sorrow. A creation abandoned. But not without purpose. For a greater fire is coming. The stars burn with enemies. The boy is the key to waking the last defense. Lyra looked at her brother, then back at the dragon. Her heart was torn between fear and hope. Why him? Why Ern? The dragon's gaze fell on the sleeping boy. Because his blood carries the echo of those who made me. The old ones. Their mark has returned in him. He alone can awaken the shield that protects this world. The chamber grew silent. The villagers exchanged uneasy glances. To believe the dragon meant accepting a truth greater than they had ever known. The angry hunter spat on the ground. Lies. Trickery. It wants to use the boy, to feed on him, too. Before he could finish, the dragon's claw slammed down near him, cracking the stone. Sparks of green fire shot across the floor. Enough. The hunter fell to his knees, trembling. Lyra stood firm, her voice shaking. If you are truly a protector, then prove it. Release my brother. Let me take him home. The dragon's eyes narrowed. If he leaves before the time is right, he will die. His body is changing, becoming what it must. To take him now is to lose him forever. Lyra's breath caught. She touched the pod again, feeling the faint pulse of warmth inside. It was as if the pod itself was alive, breathing with her brother. Her heart screamed to break it open, to pull him out and carry him away. But the dragon's words held her frozen. Could it be telling the truth? The cavern trembled again, not from the dragon, but from something deeper, something beneath the mountain. A low hum rose from the ground, like the awakening of a machine long asleep. The dragon lifted its head, its eyes flashing. It begins. The mountain stirs. Soon, others will come. If you wish to live, leave now. The villagers looked at one another in fear. But Lyra stayed where she was, her hand still on the pod. She would not leave her brother. The cave shook with a low, steady hum. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the green symbols along the walls glowed brighter, pulsing like veins of light. The villagers pressed back in fear, but Lyra kept her hand on the glowing pod. Her brother lay inside, still breathing, still asleep. The dragon raised its head, its massive horns scraping the stone above. Its wings stretched slightly, sending a rush of hot air across the chamber. The mountain wakes, the voice whispered inside their minds. The old power is rising again. The elder stared at the glowing walls with wide eyes. I have heard stories, he whispered. Stories of machines that once shook the earth. I thought they were myths. The dragon's gaze turned to him. Not myth. Memory. Buried by time. Your kind forgot, but I remember. I was made to remember. Lyra's voice broke through, strong but trembling. Why Ern? Why take a child? He is only a boy. He is my brother. The dragon's eyes softened, though their fire still burned. The pod is shaping him, not harming him. His blood carries the old code, the signal of the makers. Only he can awaken the shield that sleeps below. Without him, your people will fall when the sky burns again. The villagers exchanged nervous glances. None spoke, but their faces showed doubt, fear, and anger. One hunter stepped forward, his spear still in his hand. You expect us to believe this? That our world depends on a boy? That you, a monster, suddenly care for humans? The dragon lowered its head until its burning eyes were inches from the man. The hunter dropped his spear, trembling as the voice thundered in his skull. I do not care for humans. I care for the task I was given. Protect this world. That is my purpose. And your boy is the last key. The hunter stumbled back, pale with terror. Lyra clenched her fists. Her heart wanted to deny it, to call the dragon a liar. But every word it spoke carried weight, as though truth itself was woven in its voice. She looked again at her brother, peaceful inside the glowing pod. For the first time since the night he was taken, she felt he was not in danger, but she also felt he was no longer fully hers. "Then tell us," Lyra demanded. "What is this place? What sleeps under the mountain?" The dragon's gaze drifted upward, as though it could see through the stone into the sky above. Long ago, from beyond the stars, they came. Not men. Not beasts. A race of fire and hunger. They burned your world once. Your ancestors built me to stop them. They built shields, weapons, guardians. We fought, and many were lost. But we won, and the invaders fled. The guardians fell silent, one by one, and I remained, waiting for the day they would return. A deep silence followed. The villagers stared in shock. None of them had ever heard such a story. The elder's voice cracked. "If what you say is true, then the invaders, they could come back." The dragon's eyes flashed. "They are coming. Even now, I feel the pull of their ships in the dark. They will arrive soon. And your kind is unprepared. You live in wood and stone, while fire falls from the sky. Without the shield, you will burn." Lyra's blood ran cold. The image of her village, her family, her friends, all burning under fire from the heavens, burned in her mind. One of the hunters shook his head, anger in his voice. "Lies. These are only stories to frighten us. It wants us to kneel, to worship it like some god." But before anyone could answer, the cave shook again, harder this time. Cracks split the stone floor, glowing green from beneath. A deep rumble rolled through the chamber, like the heartbeat of a giant waking from its sleep. The dragon spread its wings, filling the room with heat and light. "The mountain stirs because the key is here. The boy's blood has awakened it. Soon, the shield will rise, but it cannot without him." Lyra pressed her hand to the pod again. "And if he does this, if he awakens the shield, will he survive?" For the first time, the dragon hesitated. Its eyes dimmed slightly. "I do not know." Her chest tightened. The answer cut through her like a blade. She wanted to scream, to demand another way, but her throat locked with fear. The dragon continued. "If he does nothing, all of you will die. If he awakens the shield, there is a chance you will live. But the cost may be his own life." The villagers gasped, some whispering prayers, others shaking their heads. To them, it sounded like madness. To sacrifice a child for a promise of survival was unthinkable. But Lyra's eyes hardened. She looked at the dragon, then at her brother. "You said he is chosen. That he has the blood of the Makers. Then why him, and not me? Why not anyone else?" The dragon's voice was firm, like stone. "Because only he was born with the echo. Only he carries the song that wakes the mountain. If I could choose another, I would. But fate does not bend to will." The ground shook once more. This time, the rumble was joined by a deep, distant roar, not from the dragon, but from far above, in the sky. The dragon's eyes flared. "They come." The villagers turned pale. "What comes?" one cried. The dragon's gaze fixed on the cave mouth, where faint thunder echoed across the night. "The first scouts of the enemy. The stars have opened. Soon, fire will fall again." Lyra stood frozen, her heart torn between terror and resolve. Her brother was trapped in the pod, caught between life and something greater. The dragon was not her enemy, but nor was it her friend. It was a force, ancient and unyielding. And now, the choice was before her: trust the dragon and risk her brother's life, or deny it and watch her world burn. The cave was alive with sound and light. The walls pulsed brighter, veins of green energy racing faster beneath the stone. The pod holding Aeon glowed like fire trapped in crystal. Lyra stood beside it, her hand pressed to the surface, her heart pounding. The dragon loomed over them, wings half spread, eyes blazing. "The enemy comes. We must prepare." But not everyone believed. The hunters backed away, their faces twisted with fear and anger. One of them, the tallest and fiercest, gripped his spear tightly. His voice shook with rage. "Lies. It wants to trick us. It wants the boy for itself. Look at this place. Machines, glowing walls, this is not human. This is a tomb of demons." Others muttered in agreement. Fear was growing faster than trust. Lyra spun toward them. "No. Can't you see? It hasn't hurt Aeon. It could have killed us, but it didn't. It is telling the truth." The tall hunter spat on the ground. "You're blinded because it took your brother. You'd believe anything to save him. But we will not hand our future to a monster." He raised his spear and shouted, "Kill it before it kills us!" With a roar, the hunters charged. The dragon's eyes blazed. A blast of hot wind burst from its mouth, not fire, but a force so strong it knocked men off their feet. Spears clattered to the stone. Torches flew from hands. "Fools!" the dragon's voice thundered inside their minds. "You strike at your last protector. You are your own doom." One hunter scrambled up and threw his spear. It struck the dragon's chest with a sharp clang, but the weapon snapped like dry wood against steel. The beast roared, this time with true fury. The sound shook the cave like an earthquake. Dust rained from the ceiling, and cracks split the walls. Lyra screamed, "Stop! You'll bring the mountain down on us." But the men would not listen. Fear had made them blind. They drew knives, axes, anything they could wield, and rushed again. The dragon's wings snapped open, filling the chamber with a storm of wind. One sweep sent hunters flying into the walls, groaning in pain. Another sweep shattered stone pillars like clay. The elder cried out, "Stop this madness! You cannot fight it!" But even his voice was drowned in chaos. Lyra ran between them, desperate. She raised her hands, shouting until her throat burned. "Listen to me! This is not our enemy!" The hunters hesitated, some lowering their weapons. But the tall one, his face twisted with hate, pushed past her. He drew a dagger and lunged, not at the dragon, but at the pod. "No!" Lyra screamed. The blade struck the surface with a sharp crack. Sparks of green light burst from the impact. The pod shuddered violently, lines of energy racing across its surface. Aaron's body jerked inside, his eyes flickering open for a moment. The dragon roared with such force that the ground split beneath their feet. Its claw swept forward, knocking the hunter across the chamber like a rag doll. He slammed against the wall and lay still, unmoving. Silence fell. The dragon lowered its head to the pod, its eyes burning. "Strike at me if you must, but touch the key again, and none of you will leave alive." The hunters dropped their weapons, fear overwhelming them. None dared move. Lyra knelt by the pod, tears in her eyes. "Aaron, I'm here. Stay with me, please." Inside, her brother's eyes flickered open again. This time, his lips moved faintly. She pressed her ear against the pod, straining to hear. One word escaped his mouth, weak but clear. "Lyra." Her heart nearly broke. She pressed her hand harder against the glass, whispering, "I won't leave you. I promise." The dragon's voice rumbled low. He stirs. The transformation begins. The shield responds to him. Soon, the mountain will rise. But outside, thunder rolled. The ground trembled with a new sound, not from the dragon, not from the cave. A deep rumble from the sky above. The elder's eyes widened. "What is that?" The dragon's gaze turned upward. "The scouts. They are here." A loud boom shook the cave as rocks fell from the ceiling. Through cracks above, strange lights flashed, red and cold, unlike any fire the villagers had ever seen. The hunters pressed against the walls in terror. "The sky burns," one cried. "The end has come." The dragon spread its wings wide. Not the end. The beginning. The war returns. Its gaze fixed on Lyra. "Decide now. Stay and fight beside me, or flee and watch your world burn. The choice is yours." Lyra's heart raced. She looked at her brother, trapped in the glowing pod, and then at the hunters, broken by fear. Her whole life had been small, just the village, the fields, the mountains. But now, the truth was clear, the battle was greater than her, greater than them all. She stood tall, her voice steady. "I will not run. If Aaron is the key, then I will fight to protect him." The dragon's eyes burned brighter, a hint of respect in their fire. "Then you are braver than most of your kind." The ground shook again as the strange lights above grew stronger. The hum of alien machines filled the air. Shadows moved across the cracks in the ceiling. The hunters looked up, horror on their faces. "What are those?" one whispered. The dragon's wings stretched fully, its body glowing like molten stone. "The first of many. The stars have opened, and the enemy has come." Lyra gripped her brother's pod tightly, her eyes fierce. "Then let them come. We will not fall." The dragon roared, shaking the mountains with fire and fury. The battle of belief was over. The war for survival had begun. The cavern thundered like a living heart. The pod around Aaron glowed so bright it lit the chamber like daylight. Cracks in the ceiling widened, spilling red flashes from the sky above. Strange, metallic sounds echoed, machines unlike anything the villagers had ever known. The hunters cowered near the walls, whispering prayers. The elder clutched his staff tightly, his old eyes fixed on the boy in the pod. Lyra stood firm, though her knees trembled, her hand never leaving her brother. The dragon raised its head, fire burning behind its green eyes. The enemy has come. The shield must awaken now, or all is lost. Lyra's throat tightened. She looked at Aaron, who stirred faintly inside the pod. His lips moved again, whispering her name, though his voice was weak. She pressed her palm harder against the surface. I'm here. I won't leave you. The dragon's voice filled her mind. He is ready. But you must decide. If the pod completes its work, the shield will rise, and your world may survive. But the boy may not. Her heart broke at the words. There has to be another way, she whispered. He's just a child. The dragon lowered its massive head, its voice heavy with sorrow. Every age demands sacrifice. The Makers knew this. Now the burden falls on him. Above, the sky cracked with light. A blast shook the cave, and a burning object tore through the opening, smashing into the mountainside outside. The ground rumbled like thunder. Screams rose from the village far below. The elder fell to his knees. They are here. The sky demons have returned. The dragon spread its wings, sparks of green fire rolling off its scales. There is no time. Choose. Lyra's chest heaved. Her mind screamed to break the pod open, to pull Aaron free and run. But her heart knew the truth. There was nowhere to run. If the shield failed, not just the village, but the whole world would fall. Her tears burned hot on her cheeks as she pressed her forehead to the glass. Aaron, forgive me. The pod glowed brighter, pulsing faster like a beating heart. Aaron's eyes opened fully now, glowing faintly green. He looked at her through the glass, weak but steady. Lyra, his voice was clearer this time, though thin. Don't cry. I can do this. Her breath caught. She shook her head violently. No. You're just a boy. You don't have to. But he smiled, small and fragile. I always wanted to see the stars. The pod flared with blinding light. Energy shot through the chamber, racing along the glowing veins in the walls. The mountain trembled. The dragon reared back, roaring. It begins. Outside, the mountains split open. Towers of green crystal burst from the ground, rising high into the storming sky. Energy lines raced across the cliffs, forming a massive dome of light around the valley. The alien ships above struck with beams of fire, but the shield shimmered, blocking the attack. The villagers who had stayed behind cried out in awe and terror. Some fell to their knees, others reached toward the glowing barrier in disbelief. The night sky lit with battle as alien machines circled, their weapons crashing against the shield. The world had changed in a single heartbeat. Inside the cave, the pod cracked. Pieces of crystal fell away, releasing streams of smoke and sparks. Lyra rushed forward as her brother collapsed into her arms. Aaron, she cried. His body was warm, trembling, but alive. His eyes, still glowing faintly, looked up at her. You did it, she whispered, clutching him tightly. You saved us. But the dragon's voice rumbled darkly. It is not over. Lyra looked up in fear. What do you mean? The dragon's eyes burned brighter. The shield is awake, but weak. To hold against the storm, it needs a core, a living will. That is why the Makers bound it to blood. The boy must join with it fully. Only then will it endure. Lyra's blood ran cold. She shook her head, holding Aaron tighter. No. You said he might survive. You said. I said I did not know, the dragon answered. Now I know. He must choose. Aaron lifted his head weakly. His small hand touched his sister's cheek. Lyra, if I don't, everyone dies. Her tears fell on his face. No. I can't lose you. You're all I have. He smiled faintly again, though his eyes burned with something older, stronger. You'll never lose me. I'll be in the stars. I'll be in the shield. Before she could stop him, his body glowed brighter. The energy from the cave surged into him, lifting him from her arms. The pod reformed around him, but this time, instead of crystal, it was pure light. Lyra reached out, screaming, Aaron! His voice echoed in her mind, soft but strong. Don't be afraid. I'm not gone. I'm part of this now. Protect them for me. And then, in a flash of light, the boy was gone. The pod shattered into sparks that rose into the veins of the mountain. The shield above blazed stronger, its green dome pushing the alien ships back. The dragon roared in triumph, its wings blazing with fire. The shield lives again. The world endures. But Lyra fell to her knees, her hands empty, her heart shattered. Above the valley, the alien ships circled, their weapons pounding against the shield. But the barrier held firm, stronger with each strike. The attackers faltered, then retreated into the stars, leaving the sky burning red behind them. The villagers stared in stunned silence, saved but shaken. Inside the cave, Lyra knelt on the stone floor, tears dripping into the cracks that still glowed with her brother's light. The dragon lowered its massive head beside her. For once, its voice was softer, almost gentle. He is not gone. He is the mountain now. The shield. The guardian of all. His sacrifice will be remembered, if your kind is wise enough to remember. Lyra wiped her eyes, her voice hoarse. Then I will remember. I will tell his story. No one will forget him. The dragon's eyes burned steady. Then you are more than human. You are the keeper of truth. Lyra looked out through the cracks of the cave, at the glowing shield covering the sky. Her heart ached with loss, but deep inside, she felt her brother's presence, warm, watching, eternal. The war was not over. But humanity had survived its first battle. And a boy from a small village had become their shield.